Imagine stepping into a crime scene that has been, meticulously scrubbed. I mean, the floors are practically soaked in household bleach.
Just completely drenched.
Yeah, exactly. The killer has clearly spent like a significant amount of time and effort trying to erase their tracks, wiping away the blood, wiping away footprints. But then you look up, and sitting perfectly centered on the basement windowsill is a single ice-cold bottle of beer.
It's wild.
It's completely empty. And it is absolutely covered in the killer's DNA.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we have a stack of sources detailing a case from February 28th, 2005. This is in Chicago, Illinois.
Right.
And it's a double homicide that just completely paralyzed the FBI.
It really did.
And it paralyzed them precisely because of these contradictory, chaotic clues, like that beer bottle.
It is a genuinely baffling scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at the murders of Michael Lefcow and Donna Humphrey.
Right.
Who were the husband and the mother of a sitting federal judge, Joan Lefcow.
Okay, let's unpack this because...
Well, when you read the initial FBI file, the crime scene tells two completely different stories simultaneously.
How so?
On one hand, you have the hallmarks of a highly sophisticated, targeted assassination of a federal judge's family.
Right, which makes sense given her job.
Exactly. But on the other hand, you have this staggering, almost comical level of sloppiness.
My initial thought, just looking at the target, a federal judge, is that this has to be a professional hit.
That's where everyone's mind goes first.
Right, because you don't accidentally target a federal judge. But, a professional doesn't stop to drink a beer on the job.
Definitely not.
So how do we make sense of this? Who is actually walking into that basement?
To figure that out, we have to kind of throw out the aftermath for a moment.
Okay.
We need to reconstruct the chronology of that day, step by step.
Makes sense.
Because if we look closely at the behavioral psychology of the intruder as the day unfolds, the whole professional hitman theory starts to dissolve very quickly. Yeah. We have to start at 4:30 in the morning, so hours before anyone in the Lefcow house is even awake.
Okay, so 4:30 a.m. It's a freezing February night in Chicago.
Very cold.
The house is completely dark. The intruder comes around to the back of the house, violently smashes a basement window, and just climbs inside.
Right.
Now, in my mind, if you are breaking in at 4:30 a.m., you are either a burglar looking for a quick grab, or you're there to do harm right then and there while everyone is asleep.
That's the logical assumption.
Oh.
But this intruder does neither.
Nothing.
No, they don't steal a single item, and they don't go upstairs to the bedrooms at all.
So what do?
Instead, they find a utility closet in the basement, step inside, and just shut the door.
Wait, which means they are essentially locking themselves in with the furnace.
Yes.
For how long? Like, what is the goal here?
Well, based on the timeline investigators pieced together, the plan was to wait there all day.
You're kidding.
Nope. The intruder intended to hide in that cramped, dark closet, wait for the house to wake up, go through its entire morning routine, and eventually empty out as everyone went to work and school.
That is?
And only then, once the house was completely vacant, would the intruder sneak upstairs and wait to ambush their specific intended target.
Which was Judge Joan Lefcow.
Exactly. When she returned home from work that evening.
I have to stop you right there because that plan makes absolutely no logistical sense.
None at all.
If the goal is an ambush, breaking in at 4:30 a.m. and trapping yourself in a utility closet for, 12 to 14 hours?
Yeah, easily 12 hours.
That is insane. You have no exit strategy.
Right.
You are relying entirely on the assumption that nobody's going to come down to the basement or, do a load of laundry or check the furnace.
Exactly.
It's like locking yourself in a cage and just hoping the zookeeper doesn't walk by. It leaves a massive amount of room for variables.
What's fascinating here is that is exactly the point we need to analyze.
The variables.
The sheer absurdity of that plan. It's the first major clue to the intruder's psychological state.
Okay, how so?
Because a professional hitman operates on risk mitigation. They minimize their time on target.
Right, get in, get out.
They observe from the outside, find an optimal moment of exposure, strike, and leave. This intruder's plan is the absolute opposite of risk mitigation.
It's all risk.
It shows a profound level of tunnel vision. They were so intensely fixated on the end goal, the ambush of the judge, that their brain completely failed to compute the practical realities.
The realities of breaking into a multi-generational household?
Yes.
So they are exhibiting a severe detachment from reality before the crime even truly begins.
Precisely. They have locked themselves into a scenario where any slight deviation from their imagined timeline will result in total failure.
And in a household with 4 distinct individuals, deviations are practically guaranteed.
Inevitable.
Let's look at that household for a second, because the people upstairs waking up have no idea they're walking around right above an armed intruder.
All right, it's a completely normal morning for them.
So you have Joan Lefcow, the federal judge. You have her husband, Michael, who is 64 and an attorney. Then you have Joan's 89-year-old mother, Donna Humphrey, and their teenage daughter, Meg.
Yes.
And the sources note that both Michael and Donna are dealing with severe mobility issues on this specific day.
And the physical vulnerability of the people in the house is a critical factor in how the violence eventually unfolds.
How bad were the mobility issues?
Well, Donna, at 89, was recovering from a severe bout of sepsis. She relied heavily on 2 canes just to shuffle from room to room.
Oh, wow.
And Michael, who is normally very active, had actually torn his Achilles tendon playing tennis a week prior.
Ouch.
Yeah. So he was in a cast and heavily reliant on crutches.
So neither of the 2 people who are highly vulnerable are the intended targets.
Right, they aren't the judge.
But they are the ones who are going to be in the crosshairs. Because as the morning routine starts, Joan makes breakfast, she chats with Michael about her docket for the day, she heads off to the federal courthouse.
And Meg catches the school bus.
Right. A seemingly minor decision completely upends the intruder's 12-hour closet plan.
It's a butterfly effect in action. Normally, Michael would commute to his law office.
But he's on crutches.
Exactly. Because navigating an icy Chicago commute on crutches with a torn Achilles is miserable, he decides to work from his home office that day.
His home office is right there in the basement.
Yes. So the house doesn't empty out as the intruder calculated.
Uh-oh.
Around 9 a.m., Michael helps his frail mother-in-law, Donna, down the stairs to her favorite chair on the first floor.
Okay.
Once she is settled, he gathers his legal files, hobbles down the stairs into the basement, opens the door to his office, and sits down at his desk.
So we have a man working quietly at his desk and an armed intruder hiding in the utility closet within that exact same room.
Only 5 feet away.
How does the confrontation actually trigger? Like, does the intruder jump out?
No, the intruder actually tries to remain hidden, but Michael hears a rustling sound coming from the closet.
Just a slight noise.
Right. And put yourself in Michael's mindset for a second. It's a freezing morning.
Yeah.
It is entirely logical for his brain to categorize a mechanical or rustling sound in that specific closet as the furnace working overtime.
Right. He isn't reaching for a weapon. He's thinking he might need to call the HVAC repair guy.
Exactly. He has no framework to assume there is an assassin in his house.
So he gets up on his crutches, goes over to the closet, and turns the doorknob.
He opens the door, and the shock on both sides is absolute.
I can't even imagine.
The intruder is suddenly face to face with a man they didn't expect to be there. And according to the behavioral profiling in the case files, the intruder immediately panics.
And that panic is lethal.
Yes.
The intruder raises the gun and shoots Michael point blank in the head. It's sudden, it's loud, and Michael collapses.
It's over in a second.
But a gunshot in a quiet house isn't going to go unnoticed.
No, definitely not. Sound travels up the stairwell. On the first floor, 89-year-old Donna hears the loud crack.
She must have been terrified.
She doesn't know it's a gunshot, necessarily, but she knows it's an alarming noise.
Right.
So she calls out, "Michael, is that you?"
Mm-hmm.
And begins to slowly shuffle down the hallway toward the basement stairs using her 2 canes.
What is happening in the intruder's mind at this exact moment? I mean, their plan is ruined. They just committed a murder they didn't want to commit. And now they hear someone coming.
You are looking at a massive, unmanageable dump of adrenaline.
Just pure panic.
The cognitive load on the intruder's brain is completely redlining. They are in a state of extreme fight or flight.
Okay.
They rush out of the closet, move down the basement hallway, and see this elderly woman near the stairs.
Oh no.
Still operating purely on explosive panic, the intruder raises the weapon and shoots Donna in the head as well.
It's an unfathomable escalation. I mean, 2 completely innocent, unintended targets are dead within seconds.
Yes.
But the source material details that the violence doesn't end with the initial panic.
It doesn't.
The killer drags Donna's body into the office next to Michael, and then they do something that feels very different from a panic response.
Yes. The killer stands over the 2 victims and shoots them both a second time.
Wow.
An execution-style double tap to the head.
See, that secondary action feels cold. That feels calculated.
It does.
That's why my mind initially goes back to the professional hitman theory.
It looks calculated on the surface, sure. but behavioral analysts view it as a momentary shift from reactive panic to brutal self-preservation.
Like covering their tracks.
It's a twisted internal logic. Basically, I made a mistake, my plan is ruined, and now I must ensure there are no surviving witnesses to my mistake.
God.
It is deliberate, but it is born out of desperation, not cold professionalism. And we know it wasn't professional because of what happens literally minutes later.
The beer. Walk us through this, because this is the detail that absolutely breaks my brain. The killer has just executed 2 people, including an 89-year-old woman. And then what?
They retreat back to the utility closet. On the floor of the closet is a cardboard 12-pack of beer left over from a party Joan had thrown earlier that week.
Right.
The killer looks down, sees the beer, pulls a bottle out, cracks it open, and drinks it.
Why? I mean, I cannot wrap my head around the psychological state required to commit a double homicide and then immediately say, you know what, I'm going to have a quick beverage.
It's actually a documented psychological phenomenon.
Really?
Yeah, it's often referred to in behavioral science as a displacement activity.
Displacement activity.
Right. When an organism, whether it's an animal in the wild or a human being, experiences a massive conflict of drives or a sudden spike of unmanageable adrenaline, the brain sometimes just short circuits.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a cat miss a jump, land awkwardly, and then immediately sit down and start meticulously grooming its paw?
Yes. Like it's trying to pretend it meant to do that. I'm just washing up. Nothing to see here.
Exactly. The cat is flooded with adrenaline from the fall, but there's no predator to fight and nowhere to flee.
So it has to do something with that energy?
The brain doesn't know where to put it, so it displaces it into a highly mundane, routine activity to self-soothe.
Oh, wow.
In human beings, extreme trauma or panic can trigger a similar response. The killer's brain was so overloaded by the horror of what they just did, the guilt, the destruction of their plan, that it desperately grasped for a grounding mechanism.
And drinking a beer is a grounding mechanism.
Drinking a beer is a deeply mundane, everyday action. It was a psychotic short circuit aimed at regulating a shattered nervous system.
So it's not them celebrating or like relaxing, it's their brain literally malfunctioning, trying to process the trauma.
Precisely. And the subsequent actions further prove the malfunction.
Right, because what do they do next?
After drinking the beer, the killer abandons the ambush plan entirely. They place the empty beer bottle perfectly on the ledge of the shattered window.
Just leaving it there.
Then they find a household sponge and some bleach, and they try to wipe up the massive pools of blood in the hallway.
Which is another massive contradiction. Here's where it gets really interesting. You try to meticulously bleach the floor to erase your presence, but you leave your literal saliva and fingerprints on a bottle sitting right on the windowsill.
Right.
It's like trying to sweep up some dust in the living room while leaving your driver's license on the kitchen counter.
It's the very definition of cognitive overload. They are capable of recognizing they need to clean up. That's basic survival instinct.
Right.
But they lack the working memory and executive function to realize they just left a pristine piece of physical evidence in plain sight.
It's baffling.
And they spend hours attempting this futile cleanup. You cannot erase a double homicide with a kitchen sponge.
No.
Eventually, around 1:15 p.m., overwhelmed by the sheer volume of blood, they just give up and climb back out the broken window,
leaving this horrific, baffling scene behind. So the killer is gone by 1:15 p.m.?
Yes.
But the bodies aren't discovered right away. Doesn't Meg, the teenage daughter, come home from school later that afternoon?
She does. Meg comes home, walks into the house, and it is dead quiet.
Okay.
She doesn't see her dad or her grandmother. But knowing that both of them have severe mobility issues, what is the most logical assumption for a teenager to make?
That they're upstairs resting.
Exactly. She assumes they're taking a nap. She doesn't want to wake them, so she quietly grabs her workout clothes and leaves again.
That is a terrifying near miss.
Very close.
She walked right over a double homicide and had no idea.
None.
But Joan, the judge, isn't so easily convinced. She's at the federal courthouse all day, right?
Yes. And Joan has been calling the house multiple times throughout the afternoon.
Just checking in.
Remember, Michael is immobilized in a cast. He should be sitting right next to his office phone.
Right, he can't really go anywhere.
So when he doesn't answer all afternoon, and when Meg tells her she didn't see them either, Joan's anxiety spikes.
Naturally.
The patterns of her loved ones are broken. So she leaves the courthouse at 5 p.m. and drives home.
So Joan pulls in around 5:30 p.m. The sun is setting. She walks into a dark house.
She checks the first floor, the second floor, the bedrooms. Nothing.
No one is there.
The only place left is the basement.
The physical space is slowly forcing her toward the one conclusion her brain is desperate to avoid.
She goes down the basement stairs, looks down the hallway, and sees blood on the floor where the killer's bleach attempt failed.
Yeah.
She runs to Michael's office, throws open the door, and sees the horrific reality.
Yeah.
But the source material notes she doesn't run in to check on them.
No, she doesn't.
Her reaction is immediate and visceral.
She slams the door shut, turns, runs upstairs, and dials 911.
Slams the door.
From a psychological standpoint, slamming that door is a profound defense mechanism. Her visual cortex registers a scene so deeply traumatic that her brain simply refused to process it.
Wow.
By physically closing the door, she was subconsciously trying to close off the reality of what happened, trying to rewind time to 3 seconds prior when her family was still alive in her mind.
But the reality is there, and once that 911 call is made, the response is massive.
It's instant. Because Joan isn't just a citizen, she's a sitting federal judge. The Chicago police arrive, but they instantly hand the reins to the FBI.
Immediately.
U.S. Marshals are immediately dispatched to sweep up Joan and her daughters and move them to a secure safe house.
That is standard federal protocol. When a judge's family is targeted, the institution assumes the judge is the ultimate target.
Right.
And that the threat is an ongoing, highly sophisticated plot against the judiciary itself. You don't take chances.
FBI Special Agent Douglas Seckham from the Chicago field office takes the lead. He walks the house, and immediately the clues start messing with that sophisticated plot theory.
Yeah, the scene doesn't fit the profile.
He checks the upstairs, and all the electronics, all the valuables are completely untouched.
Which is vital. It definitively rules out a standard burglary gone wrong.
Right, because if a burglar panics and shoots someone, they still usually grab a laptop or some jewelry on the way out to justify the extreme risk they just took.
Exactly. The pristine nature of the upstairs tells Seckham this was targeted violence.
So Seckham goes to the basement. He sees the shattered window, the shell casings, the utility closet. He spots the 11-bottle case of beer by the furnace, and then he sees that 12th bottle sitting on the ledge.
That glaring mistake.
Forensics immediately bags that bottle for DNA and fingerprints. But then they do something really interesting to analyze the cleanup attempt.
The LCV.
Right, they use a chemical called leucocrystal violet. How exactly does that work? Because, I mean, if the killer used bleach, doesn't bleach destroy DNA and blood?
That is a fantastic question, and it gets to the heart of forensic chemistry.
Okay, lay it on me.
Bleach is highly corrosive. It will absolutely degrade DNA to the point where it cannot be sequenced.
Right, yeah.
If you bleach a blood stain, you are destroying the genetic material.
So the killer did the right thing, criminally speaking.
Criminally speaking, yes. However, leucocrystal violet, or LCV, isn't looking for DNA.
What is it looking for?
It is looking for hemoglobin, specifically the iron molecule at the center of the hemoglobin protein.
And bleach doesn't destroy iron.
Exactly. Bleach cannot vaporize elemental iron. The iron remains embedded in the microscopic pores of the floor, even after vigorous scrubbing.
Oh, that is so cool.
When forensics sprays the floor with LCV, the chemical reacts specifically with that residual iron.
And what happens?
When the reaction occurs, the LCV oxidizes and turns a brilliant, vibrant violet color.
Wow!
So the killer thought they erased their tracks, but when the FBI sprayed the hallway, the entire floor lit up in bright violet, revealing massive, sweeping white marks.
It showed exactly how frantic the cleanup attempt was.
Yes, every single panic swipe of that sponge.
That is incredible. So they have the DNA from the beer bottle, they have the chemical mapping of the frantic cleanup, and then they get an eyewitness tip.
A very compelling tip.
Agent Seckham is canvassing the neighborhood, and he talks to a local pastor at a church down the street.
The pastor provides what seems like a golden lead. He says he saw a suspicious red car loitering near the church earlier that day. There were 2 men inside who didn't look like locals, and they were smoking cigarettes and drinking cans of Coca-Cola.
And forensics goes to the spot.
Forensics checks the spot, and they find the discarded Coke cans and cigarette butts.
So imagine you're Agent Seckham, right? You have an algorithm running in your head. You are trying to process all this data. You have a meticulously wiped floor, but a beer bottle left on display like a trophy. You have a broken window and a tip about 2 guys in a red car. Do you assume the killer is a brilliant mastermind taunting you, or an amateur who completely lost their mind? How does the FBI prioritize this?
The FBI is forced to weigh 2 competing theories.
Okay.
Theory A. This is a highly organized hit orchestrated by a sophisticated group. The men in the red car were the lookout and the trigger man. The intact electronics support this.
Right, and Theory B.
Theory B, this was a random botched break-in by an unstable amateur.
Which the beer bottle supports.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is institutional bias. Given the victim's profile, a federal judge, the FBI's threat matrix heavily prioritizes Theory A. They almost have to assume it's a sophisticated threat against the judiciary until proven otherwise.
Which means they have to dive into Joan's professional life.
They do.
We really need to talk about the psychological burden of being a federal judge. Because with burglary ruled out, Joan has to sit in that safe house and confront the terrifying reality that her life's work, her dedication to the law, is what painted a target on her husband and mother.
The emotional toll of that is unimaginable. A federal judge operates in the deepest, grayest areas of human conflict.
Yeah.
Every single day, they put on a robe and make agonizing decisions that will ruin someone's life.
Literally.
They hand down life sentences to gang members, they bankrupt corporations, they dismiss lawsuits that citizens have pinned all their hopes and life savings on.
Right.
Every time that gavel strikes, it is an administrative action for the court, but it is a devastating, life-altering event for the person on the receiving end. A judge inherently creates lifelong, resentful enemies simply by doing their job.
Michael, being an attorney, understood that abstract risk. But understanding the theory of risk and having it violently enter your home are two very different things.
Absolutely.
Seckham interviews Joan, who is surprisingly composed but just furious, and he asks her for a short list. Who hates you enough to do this?
And she immediately gives him 3 names from her recent docket.
3 highly plausible suspects who represent the diverse range of threats a judge faces.
Right.
Suspect 1 is Sean Peters, the leader of a violent local street gang whom Joan had recently sentenced to a long prison term. It is very easy to imagine a gang leader ordering a hit from behind bars.
Very common.
Suspect 2 is Richard Young, an armed robber who was physically intimidating in her courtroom and displayed a capacity for extreme violence. And suspect 3 is Matthew Hale.
When Joan mentions Matthew Hale, the entire posture of the FBI task force shifts.
Why is that?
Because Hale isn't just a disgruntled defendant. He is the absolute worst-case scenario for federal law enforcement.
Now, I want to pause here and be super clear with you, the listener, as we discuss Matthew Hale.
Yes, important disclaimer here.
The source material delves into his background as the leader of an extreme white separatist organization. For our purposes today, we are going to look strictly at the operational facts of how the FBI investigates a high-profile extremist network during an active manhunt.
Right.
We aren't here to dissect the ideology itself or endorse anything, just outline the mechanics of the criminal investigation based on the source material.
That's the right approach. Because from Seckham's perspective, Hale represents a massive tactical threat, regardless of his specific beliefs.
What's the history there?
A year prior, Hale's group was sued for trademark infringement by a church in Oregon. Joan was the judge, and she ruled against Hale, forcing him to change the name of his organization.
Okay.
In retaliation, Hale actually solicited an undercover FBI informant to assassinate Judge Joan Lefcow.
Wait, really? He literally already tried to have her killed?
Yes. He was caught, convicted, and on the day Michael and Donna were murdered, Hale was sitting in a Chicago prison cell awaiting sentencing for that exact assassination plot.
Okay, so the FBI algorithm I mentioned earlier is just screaming right now.
It's blaring red.
You have a guy who wants this specific judge dead. He's in prison, which is a perfect alibi, but he leads a network of followers on the outside who are willing to commit violence for it.
Exactly, and there is precedent. 6 years prior, a follower of Hale's went on a shooting spree that left 2 dead and 9 injured.
Oh my God.
To the task force, the red car eyewitness tip perfectly aligns with a coordinated strike by Hale's followers.
So the manhunt kicks into high gear. Day 1 of the investigation, March 1st. Agent Seckham goes straight to the Chicago prison to interrogate Hale.
Right to the source.
He sits down, looks Hale in the eye, and tells him Joan's family is dead. How does Hale react?
He leans back and laughs.
You're kidding.
He smiles, completely denies any involvement, and tells Seckham, "I had nothing to do with this and you will find nothing."
Which is exactly what a mastermind would say.
Exactly.
But the FBI isn't going to just take his word for it. They initiate massive surveillance protocols. How exactly does the FBI investigate someone who is already in federal lockup?
They utilize the full weight of the Patriot Act and federal wiretap authorizations. They instantly seize all of Hale's computer records from before his arrest.
Okay.
They monitor and record every single phone call he makes from the prison. Most importantly, they intercept and analyze all of his incoming and outgoing mail.
Mail takes time though, right?
It does, but prison mail is supposed to be monitored anyway, so the task force pulls months of backlogged correspondence to look for coded language.
And they find something in the mail.
They do.
Secom notices Hale has been corresponding almost daily with a woman named Kathleen Robertazzo. The sheer volume of the letters suggests they might be coordinating something.
And when the task force runs Kathleen's profile, the pieces seem to lock perfectly into place.
How so?
She lives in a suburb just 30 miles away. And when the FBI raid team rolls up to her house on the evening of March 2nd, what is sitting in her driveway?
Let me guess. A red car.
A red car.
Wow.
It is the ultimate moment of confirmation bias for the investigators. They have the motive, the network connection, the coded letters, and now the vehicle matching the eyewitness description from the pastor.
They raid the house. They seize Kathleen's computers. Secom interrogates her. She admits she communicates with Hale, but she completely denies any involvement in the murders. She provides a rock-solid, verifiable alibi for the entire day of February 28th.
She wasn't there.
But the real devastating blow comes when Secom walks back outside and actually inspects her car.
It's the wrong car.
Right. It's red, but the make and model are completely different from the highly specific description the pastor gave of the car loitering by the church.
Yeah.
The red car in the driveway is a total coincidence.
Which causes the entire investigative momentum to just crash into a brick wall.
By March 4th, which is day 4 of the investigation, the task force is paralyzingly stuck. They clear Kathleen.
Gun.
They use their resources to track down Sean Peters, the gang leader. His alibi checks out. His communications are clean.
Clear.
They track down Richard Young, the armed robber, cleared. They interrogate multiple known associates of Matthew Hale, all cleared.
Every single one.
Every single high-profile, logical lead evaporates into nothing.
The frustration in that command center must have been suffocating. They have hundreds of agents, unlimited federal resources, active wiretaps, and they are chasing phantoms.
So what does this all mean? The FBI has all this power, and they get so desperate they announce a $50,000 reward for information.
Which is a huge red flag for a struggling case.
They get over 200 tips, and every single one is useless. It shows how a single piece of bad data, like 2 random guys drinking Coke in a red car, can derail a massive federal investigation.
You are identifying the exact flaw in their process.
The confirmation bias?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable, but investigators cling to it because it feels tangible. The pastor wasn't lying. He did see 2 guys drinking Coke in a red car.
Right. They were real.
But those men were likely just 2 random contractors taking a break, completely disconnected from the horror in the Lefcow basement.
Wow.
The FBI was looking for a giant, a mastermind. They completely missed the profile of a lone, unstable amateur who leaves his DNA on a beer bottle.
Which brings us to the pivotal turning point. Day 9 of the investigation, Tuesday, March 8th. The task force is exhausted.
Running on fumes.
Secom is at his desk, likely feeling like this case is going to go cold, and his phone rings. It's the deputy director of the crime lab.
Forensic science finally cuts through the noise of human bias.
Thank goodness.
Forensics doesn't care about gang affiliations or political ideologies, it just reads the biology.
The lab ran the DNA and the fingerprints from the beer bottle through the national database, and they got a hit. A perfect match. But the lab also confirms something that officially kills the pastor's tip. The DNA on the beer bottle does not match the DNA found on the Coke cans or the cigarette butts.
Right.
The red car is officially a red herring. The killer acted alone.
And when the name of the killer is relayed to Secom, it is a name that absolutely nobody on the federal task force was looking for.
Not a single person.
It wasn't on any of their threat matrices.
The killer's name is Bart Ross. We need to do a deep dive into who Bart Ross is because his journey to that basement is terrifying and it has nothing to do with gangs or hitmen.
No, nothing at all.
Bart Ross is a man who was suffering from cancer.
Specifically, he suffered from a severe form of jaw cancer.
Oh, man.
And the medical treatment for this was highly invasive and traumatic. It required surgical intervention that resulted in Ross losing a significant portion of his jaw.
That's awful.
He was left with severe physical disfigurement, chronic pain, and a profound loss of his previous identity.
The psychological toll of facial disfigurement is massive. It changes how the world interacts with you.
Completely alters your life.
Ross became convinced that his doctors had botched his treatment. He believed they were negligent and that they ruined his life. So he sought justice the way the system tells you to. He filed a civil lawsuit for medical malpractice.
He sued his entire medical team. He was seeking financial compensation, sure, but psychologically, he was seeking an acknowledgement of his suffering.
He wanted validation.
He wanted the system to validate his pain.
This civil suit grinds its way through the legal system. It takes time, it takes money, and eventually the paperwork lands on the desk of a federal judge.
And that judge is Joan Lefcow.
Joan reviews the case files, looks at the legal precedents, and makes a ruling. She dismisses Ross's medical malpractice suit.
Let's analyze that dismissal because it represents a massive collision between objective administrative law and subjective personal devastation.
Okay.
For Judge Lefcow, this was likely a completely standard, procedurally sound ruling.
Just another Tuesday for her.
Right. She read the filings, determined they didn't meet the legal threshold for malpractice, and dismissed the case. It was an administrative action.
Yeah.
But for Bart Ross, that dismissal was the absolute destruction of his last hope.
It was the system telling him his pain didn't matter.
Yes.
And that collision triggers a catastrophic psychological unraveling. The dismissal breaks him. He becomes deeply paranoid. He detaches from reality. His grief and his physical trauma calcify into a lethal, obsessive vendetta. He sits down and physically writes out a hit list of 25 different people he blames for his situation.
The list included the doctors who treated him, the defense lawyers who argued against his lawsuit, and the judges who ruled on his case.
Just sweeping blame.
It was a manifestation of his complete psychological break.
And sitting right at the very top of that 25-person list is Judge Joan Lefcow.
It's absolutely chilling.
It's like the FBI was out in the deep water hunting for a great white shark, a coordinated apex predator sending a message to the judiciary. But what they were actually dealing with was a drowning man who had just started thrashing violently, pulling innocent people under the water with him.
That's a great analogy.
Ross wasn't an organized criminal. He was a broken person whose grief turned into legal paranoia.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it exposes a profound, terrifying fragility in our justice system.
What do you mean?
The entire architecture of the legal system is designed to be a civilized substitute for physical retribution. We use courts, pens, and paper instead of violence to resolve disputes.
Right, that's the whole point of a lawsuit.
But that system fundamentally relies on a social contract. It requires both parties to remain mentally grounded in reality and to accept the finality of a ruling, even if they hate it.
You have to accept the rules of the game.
Yes. When one party becomes completely unmoored from reality, when they lose the capacity for rational thought due to trauma or mental illness, the system's safeguards completely evaporate.
They just vanish.
The gavel has absolutely no power over someone who has lost their mind.
The resolution to this manhunt happens incredibly fast once they have the name.
To just days later.
The very next day, March 9th, police in Wisconsin spot a van parked near a federal courthouse in Milwaukee. The van is registered to Bart Ross. He is likely sitting there scouting his next target from that 25-person hit list.
The police approach the van to make contact, but before they can even reach the doors, they hear a single gunshot from inside the vehicle.
Bart Ross fatally shoots himself. When the police open the van, they find him dead, and resting nearby is a suicide note.
And the contents of that note.
In that note, Ross provides a full, obsessive, detailed confession to the murders of Michael Lefcow and Donna Humphrey.
He lays it all out.
He explains exactly how his plan to ambush Joan went wrong when Michael opened the closet door. He confirms every single bizarre detail the forensics team had puzzled over.
The panic, the shooting.
The futile attempt to bleach the blood, and yes, drinking the beer to calm his nerve before climbing out the window.
It brings a definitive, incredibly tragic close to the investigation. The mystery of the contradictory crime scene is finally explained not by criminal brilliance, but by the confession of a man operating entirely outside the bounds of reason.
It is a profound tragedy. We set out today to reconstruct the timeline, and when you look at it chronologically, the contrast is heartbreaking.
It really is.
You have this ordinary family morning, Joan making eggs, Michael helping his mother-in-law to her chair, Meg running for the bus.
That's completely normal.
And it is violently, senselessly dismantled by an erratic, paranoid man with misplaced vendetta, a man who is so overwhelmed by his own botched plan that his brain short-circuited, forcing him to drink a beer and leave the key to his own undoing right on a basement windowsill.
It is a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of human behavior. It highlights the immense challenge law enforcement faces when they try to apply rational, algorithmic logic to an inherently illogical, emotionally driven act of violence.
It also makes you deeply consider the invisible threads that connect us to complete strangers. Whatever your profession is, whether you are a judge, a doctor, a customer service representative, or a teacher, we interact with hundreds of people.
We do.
And we never truly know the mental state, the hidden medical traumas, or the breaking points of the people standing on the other side of the desk.
And that leads to a final thought I want you to consider, something that the sheer scale of the legal system obscures.
What's that?
Think about the volume of mundane administrative dismissals that happen in county, state, and federal courts every single day across the country.
Thousands upon thousands.
Thousands of civil cases are tossed out, stamped, and filed away without a second thought. If just one routine paperwork dismissal could trigger a man to draft a 25-person hit list and commit a double murder, how many invisible, narrowly avoided tragedies pass through our courthouses every single week without anyone ever knowing?
That's a terrifying thought.
How many times does the system hold just barely enough to keep the chaos at bay?
That is a deeply unsettling reality to process. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the Lefcow case. We appreciate your time, your curiosity, and your willingness to explore the intricate, sometimes terrifying realities of human behavior and forensic science with us. We will be back soon with another deep dive. Take care of yourselves and stay curious.